I prepared Thanksgiving dinner for 7 consecutive years. Table set, turkey perfuming the house, sweet potatoes perfectly cooked, and every year, always the same message. Dad, sorry, I can't make it, but we'll visit at Christmas, I promise. 7 years. 7 empty Christmases too. 7 Christmases with the same words. And me clearing the table alone, freezing the leftovers, telling myself that maybe next year would be different. Until the day I realized I wasn't waiting for them. I was waiting for a version of them that never existed. Chronic expectation is a type of abuse you commit against yourself. And when you finally understand this, something dies inside you. But not in the way you imagine. I live in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I've worked in industrial maintenance for 32 years. Same company, same route, same routine. I have 3 adult children. Sarah, 34, lives in Portland. Michael, 31, in Austin. And Daniel, 28, in Boston. 3 different time zones. 3 busy lives. 3 versions of the same phrase. Dad, we'll talk soon. My ex-wife, Janet, left home when Daniel was 12. She said she couldn't take it anymore. Couldn't take what? It was never clear. But she left, and I stayed. I raised the 3 of them alone. I'm not a man of many words, I never have been. But I was there. Breakfast, homework, soccer practice, graduations. I was there. When they left home, each going their own way, I understood. It's part of life. They have their own lives. I respected that. I kept working. I kept paying the bills. I texted them every Sunday. I called once a month. They didn't always answer. But I tried. Because that's what parents do, right? And they always answered. Not right away. Sometimes 3 days later. Sometimes a week. But they answered. And always with the same energy. Sorry, Dad, work's been crazy, but we'll talk properly soon. Or, I promise I'll call this week. Or, I owe you a visit, you know. I'll be there soon. Soon, this week. Words that sound like promises. But that never have a date, never have a time, never have a ticket purchased. They are just sounds. Sounds that fill the silence long enough for you not to realize you are alone. I believed. Not because I was naive, but because I needed to believe. Because if I doubted, what would be left? The stark truth, that my children had built lives where I wasn't needed. And that truth, I wasn't ready to face. So I waited. I prepared the house. I bought extra food. I always kept the guest room tidy, because maybe this week would be the week. Maybe this time it would be true. But do you know what's worse than a broken promise? A promise that was never meant to be kept, that was only said to make you stop asking, only to calm you down, only so you wouldn't realize you'd already been forgotten, but in a polite way. It took me years to understand this, because at first, the excuses made sense. Sarah was finishing her MBA. Michael had just gotten married. Daniel was building his career. They all had legitimate reasons. And I didn't want to be the nagging dad. The nagging dad. The pressuring dad. So I accepted it. No problem, son. We'll see each other when we can. But when it's possible, never came. Christmas turned into Easter. Easter turned into summer. Summer turned into Thanksgiving. And then Christmas again. An endless cycle of, we'll schedule it later. There was one year I tried to make things easier. I said I could go to Portland to visit Sarah. She replied, "Oh, Dad, that would be great. But let me check my schedule and let you know." 3 months later, I asked again. "Oh my gosh, I totally forgot. I'll check and send you the dates, okay?" She never did. And when I asked for the 3rd time, she got annoyed. "Dad, I already said I'll check. You don't need to keep nagging." Charging me. As if asking to see my daughter were a charge. Michael was different. He didn't get annoyed. He just dodged the question. "Dude, you have to come to Austin. The city is amazing. You'd love it. Let's make plans." And I'd say, "Great. When?" And he'd say, "Oh, I'll check with Jess and let you know." He never actually said anything, but he always repeated, "You have to come, seriously." Daniel was the most direct. "Dad, I'm going through a really busy phase, but as soon as things calm down, we'll see each other." At least he wasn't pretending. But the result was the same. Silence. I started noticing a pattern. They never said no. They never said I can't. It was always, "I'll see, we'll schedule it later, soon." Generic promises. Promises without commitment. Promises that kept me waiting, but that cost them nothing. And I kept waiting. Like an idiot. Because I still believed that deep down, they wanted to be with me. Look, I know you're listening to me right now. And maybe you know this feeling. Maybe you also have someone in your life who always promises but never shows up. And you're left there, waiting, telling yourself it's just a matter of time. If you've been through this, or if you're going through it now, subscribe to the channel. Because what I'm going to tell you here isn't just my story. It's the process of awakening to a truth that hurts, but that sets you free. And I want you to follow this with me, until the end. Oh, and leave a comment telling me where you're watching from now, just so I know I'm not alone in this. There was one Christmas that was different. Or rather, there was one Christmas that I decided would be different. It was 2019. Sarah had just had her first child, my grandson Ethan. She posted pictures of him every day on Instagram. I saw them. I liked them. I commented. But I had never held him in my arms. I called her in October. "Sarah, I wanted to spend Christmas with you guys. Meet Ethan. Can I come?" She took a while to answer. In that way. Like, the call continued, but she was silent for about 5 seconds. Then she said, "Dad, that would be amazing, but this year is going to be kind of hectic. Jake's family will be here too, and the house is small. But next year, you will come, I promise. In fact, we're thinking of going there in the summer. Then you can meet Ethan properly." I believed. I bought toys. I decorated the room. I waited for summer. July arrived. August passed. September. Nothing. I asked in October, "Sarah, what about that visit?" She said, "Oh, Dad, it's all been so hectic, you know, but we'll go, okay? It just didn't work out this year." Michael did the same thing. He said he was going to spend New Year's in Cedar Rapids. "I'm going with Jess. It'll be nostalgic." December arrived. On the 28th, he texted, "Dad, sorry, Jess isn't feeling well. We're going to stay here. But I'll be there on your birthday, I guarantee." My birthday is in March. He didn't come. He sent a video singing "Happy Birthday," with Jess laughing in the background. Daniel was the only one who didn't promise anything. He just disappeared. Sometimes 3 months without a word. When I called, it went straight to voicemail. When I texted, he'd reply, "I'm alive, Dad, just busy." And I'd just sit there, relieved that he'd responded. I started to feel pathetic, but I couldn't stop. Because if I stopped asking, if I stopped believing, what would be left? The truth. And the truth was unbearable. My children didn't want to be with me. They just wanted me to stop asking. So I kept going. I texted every Sunday. I called every month. I asked if they were okay, if they needed anything. And they answered. Always polite, always affectionate, always vague. "I'm fine, Dad. And you?" "Everything's fine here. It's been hard work, but it's going well. I miss you too. We'll talk soon." Canned phrases, generic affection, words that fill space but mean nothing. And I'm grateful. Because at least they responded, right? At least they didn't block me. At least there was still something. But you know when you eat something tasteless just because you're hungry, and you chew, you swallow, but you don't feel anything? You're still hungry? That's how it was. I was still hungry. The turning point came on a Saturday in April 2022. I had just turned 55, alone. None of them called. Sarah texted at 11:47 p.m. Happy birthday, Dad. Sorry, it was a crazy day. Michael texted the next day. Daniel. Daniel didn't text anything. I was sitting on the porch with a warm beer, looking at the empty street, and I thought, how much longer am I going to do this? It wasn't anger, it wasn't resentment, it was just exhaustion. A deep exhaustion. The kind that doesn't go away with sleep, because it wasn't the body that was tired. It was the hope. I picked up my phone. I went to my message history. I scrolled up, months, years, and I saw the same thing repeating itself. I asked. They promised. I waited. They disappeared. I asked again. An endless loop. And I was the only one feeding it. There was one message that really got to me. It was from 2 years ago. I had sent it. Sarah, can you call me today? I need to talk to you about something. She replied, Sure, Dad. I'll call you in a little while. She never called. And I never followed up, because what? Because I didn't want to bother her? Because I didn't want to seem needy? I laughed, alone, on the balcony. A bitter laugh. Because I realized I had spent years afraid of bothering people who didn't even care if I was okay. They didn't ask how I was doing. They didn't ask if I was alone. They didn't ask if I needed anything. Every conversation was about them. And I accepted it, because at least they were talking to me. But that Saturday alone, drunk with exhaustion, I understood. Expectation was a prison that I myself had built. Every time I believed in an empty promise, I was imprisoning myself. Every time I waited for a visit that didn't come, I was torturing myself. Every time I accepted crumbs of affection, I was telling myself that I didn't deserve more than that. And the worst part, they knew. Not consciously, perhaps, but they knew. They knew they could promise anything because I would believe them. They knew they could disappear for months because I would be there when they returned. They knew they could treat me as a backup plan because I would never complain. I had taught my children that disappointing me had no consequences. And now, at 55, alone on a balcony in Cedar Rapids, I realized, if I didn't change this, I was going to die waiting. I didn't make any decisions that day. I didn't block anyone. I didn't send any angry messages. I didn't do anything. I just went to sleep. But something had changed. It was subtle. Like when you twist your ankle and it doesn't hurt right away, but you feel it the next day. On Sunday, Sarah texted, Dad, how was your weekend? I looked at it. I didn't reply right away. I let it go. Not out of anger, but because I had nothing to say. My weekend had been alone, as always, and pretending everything was okay again seemed too exhausting. 3 days later, I replied, No problem. That was all. She liked the message. She didn't ask anything else. Michael called on a Wednesday. A rare occurrence. I answered. Hey, Dad, everything all right? He was excited. He said he'd gotten a promotion. He talked for 15 minutes. He didn't ask me a single question. When he paused, I said, Congratulations, son. He said, Thanks. Well, I have to hang up. I'm going into a meeting. But we'll talk later, okay? I said, Okay. And I hung up. I stared at my phone. I thought, he called. That's good, right? But I didn't feel any better. Because he hadn't called me. He'd called to share some news. I was just the audience. Daniel was still missing. But this time I didn't chase after him. I didn't send 10 messages. I didn't call 5 times. I just let it go. If he wanted to talk to me, he knew where I was. May passed. June. I kept working. I kept living. But I stopped preparing the house for visits that wouldn't come. I stopped buying extra food. I stopped checking plane tickets to see if any of them had bought tickets to Cedar Rapids. I stopped waiting. And you know what happened? Nothing. Literally nothing. They didn't notice. Because it had never been about me. It had been about them having a clear conscience. Oh, I talked to my dad. I text him. Everything's fine between us. It was, for them. There was a moment that crystallized everything. It was July. Sarah called me, rare too. I answered. Dad, I need to ask you a favor. My heart raced. A favor. She needed me. Of course, daughter. What do you need? She. Could you transfer $2,000 to me? Ethan's daycare fees went up and we're a bit tight this month. I had the money. I always have. I always saved some to help them when they needed it. And I always helped, without questioning, without asking for anything in return. Because it was my role as a father, right? But this time I asked, Sarah, when was the last time you came to see me? Silence. Then, Dad, what does this have to do with anything? I just want to know. I don't remember exactly. It's been a while. But Dad, this is urgent, the daycare. I'll help you, I said. I'll transfer you. But I want you to know. It's been 3 years. 3 years since the last time you were here. Dad, I already explained. Life's been hectic. I know. You always explain. I transferred the money. She thanked me. She hung up. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't ask if I needed anything. And that's when I realized, for them, I was a resource, not a father. August. I decided to take a test, not out of malice, but because I needed to know. I needed to confirm what I already suspected. I stopped texting every Sunday. I stopped calling. I stopped asking how they were doing. I just stopped. If they wanted to talk to me, they would have come looking for me. It was that simple. First week, nothing. Second week, nothing. Third week, Sarah texted. Dad, is everything all right? You disappeared. I replied, I'm fine. And you? She. Everything's good here, just worried because you hadn't texted. Me. I thought you were busy. She. I'm always busy, haha. But feel free to text whenever you want, okay? Me. Okay. She didn't continue the conversation. She didn't ask anything else. She just wanted to make sure I was alive. It took Michael 5 weeks to realize. He called me. Dad, is everything all right? I noticed you haven't been texting. Me. Everything's fine. Him. Oh, that's good. I was worried. So, is everything all right there? Me. Yes. Him. Great. Oh, Dad, I have to hang up, but call me if you need anything, okay? Me. Okay. I hung up. I looked at the ceiling. I thought, call me if you need anything. As if I were a technician, a plumber, someone you call when you need someone. Daniel didn't notice. 2 months, nothing, 0, and I didn't care. Because if he didn't miss me, why would I pretend to miss him? September, my birthday again, the 12th. I waited. Sarah texted at 2 p.m. Happy birthday, Dad. Michael at 6 p.m. Congratulations, old man. All the best. Daniel, the 15th. Happy belated birthday, Dad. Sorry, I was traveling. None of them called. None of them asked what I was going to do. None of them offered to come. None of them cared. And me? I thanked them for the messages, politely, and continued my day. Alone. As always. But this time I didn't cry. I wasn't sad. I just accepted it. That was it. That was my reality, and the sooner I accepted it, the less I would suffer. One night I was lying down, almost asleep, and I remembered something my father had told me. He died when I was 28. But before he died, on one of his last lucid days, he said, Son, never beg for a place in anyone's life. If you need to beg, you already have your answer. At the time, I didn't understand. I thought it was dramatic. But now, at 55, alone in a room in Cedar Rapids, I understand perfectly. I had spent years begging for a place in my children's lives, and they had given me the answer. I just didn't want to accept it. October arrived with an unexpected call. Sarah. Noon on a Friday. I answered. Hi, honey. She was crying. My whole body froze. Sarah, what happened? Is everything all right with Ethan? No, he's fine. It's just... Dad. Jake asked for a divorce. My heart sank. Not because I liked Jake, but because I knew what was coming next. She cried. She poured her heart out. She spoke for 40 minutes. I listened. I didn't interrupt. I did what I always did. I absorbed her pain. When she finished, she said, Dad, I need you. Can you come to Portland? Just for a few days. I need help with Ethan and I can't do it alone. Finally, after years, she needed me. But before I could answer, she continued, And Dad, I'm going to need some financial help too. Jake's been a jerk with the division and can you help me? Something broke. It wasn't anger. It was clarity. I said, Sarah, I'm so sorry for what you're going through. Really, but I'm not going. Silence. What? I'm not going to Portland. Dad, I just told you I need you. Didn't you hear? I heard. But you only need me now because something bad happened. When everything was fine, you didn't need me. When I asked you to come here, you didn't come. When I asked if I could visit you, you stalled. So no, Sarah, I'm not going. I can't believe you're doing this to me. At the worst moment of my life. I didn't believe it either when you did this to me. For years. She hung up. She didn't curse at me. She didn't yell. She just hung up. I stood there, waiting to feel guilty, waiting to regret it. But it didn't come. What came was relief. 2 hours later, Michael called. Dad, what did you do? Sarah is desperate and you refuse to help? Michael, I didn't refuse to help. I refused to be used. Used? She's your daughter. She's going through a divorce. And I spent years going through loneliness. Nobody cared. That's different. Why? He didn't know how to answer. He just said, You're being selfish. And then he hung up. Daniel didn't call. But Sarah sent me a long message, saying that I was cruel, that she always loved me, that she always tried to keep in touch, but her life was difficult, that I didn't understand, that a real father wouldn't abandon his daughter at a time like this. I read it, I reread it, and I thought, where was that love when I needed it? Where were those words when I was begging for a visit? I didn't reply, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't going to explain my pain to someone who never wanted to understand. November was silent, totally silent. None of them spoke to me. I expected to miss them. I expected to feel bad. But what I felt was peace. A strange peace. Quiet, like when you finally stop carrying a heavy backpack. I went back to my routine, work, home, beer on the porch. But now, the silence didn't scare me, because it wasn't abandonment. It was a choice. I had chosen to stop, and that difference changed everything. One Sunday I woke up and, out of habit, picked up my phone to text them. But I stopped. I thought, why? It wasn't anger, it was just tiredness of feeding something that never nourished me in return. At work, a colleague, Steve, noticed. You're different. Me. How so? Him. I don't know. Lighter. Less worried. I laughed. Yeah, I guess I stopped expecting things that will never happen. He looked at me seriously. Family? Me. Yes. He nodded. I understand you. Steve also had 2 children, adults, living far away. He never talked much about them, but that day he said, My children only call when they need money. At first it hurt. Now I just accept it. It is what it is. I asked, And do you regret it? Accepting it? He thought for a moment. No, because the alternative was worse. It was to keep waiting for them to change. And they won't. So I changed. That stuck with me. They're not going to change. So I changed. December has begun. Holiday season. I didn't prepare anything. I didn't buy a turkey. I didn't decorate the house. I didn't call anyone to ask if they were coming. I just lived. Normally. As if it were any other month. On the 20th, Sarah texted, "Dad, we need to talk." I didn't reply right away. I replied the next day. "About what?" She. "About what happened. About you abandoning me when I needed you most." Me. "Sarah, I didn't abandon you. I just stopped being unconditionally available to someone who was never available to me." She. "That's not fair." Me. "You're right, it isn't. But that's what happened to me for years, and I accepted it. Now it's your turn." She didn't answer. Michael tried to mediate. He called me. "Dad, let's resolve this. We're family." Me. "Family isn't just blood, Michael. It's presence. It's reciprocity. And you never gave me that." Him. "We always loved you." Me. "Love without action is just words." He hung up. And I didn't chase after him. Because chasing after someone who doesn't want to be caught is just another way of getting lost. Christmas came, and it was empty. But it didn't hurt as much as I expected. I watched TV. I ate a sandwich. I went to bed early. I woke up on the 26th and life went on. Normal, simple, no drama. None of them sent a message at Christmas, not even Merry Christmas. Nothing, and I didn't either. Not out of revenge, but because, what for? To maintain a charade? To pretend we had something we never had? January 2023 arrived. A new year. I would turn 56 in March. And for the first time in decades, I had no expectations whatsoever. I wasn't expecting visits. I wasn't expecting phone calls. I wasn't expecting anything. And you know what's strange? When you stop expecting, you stop being disappointed. And when you stop being disappointed, you start living. February. I was at the market, buying things for the week, and I saw a father with a young son. The boy must have been about 5 years old. They were choosing cereal. The father asked, "Which one do you want?" The boy pointed. The father picked it out. Simple. But there was something there. Connection. Presence. The father was seeing his son, and the son felt it. I looked, and I thought, I did that. I was that father. But somehow, as they grew up, it got lost. Or maybe I was never really seen. Maybe I was just useful. There was a time when I asked myself, did I fail as a father? And the answer was complicated, because I did everything a father should do. I was there. I paid the bills. I supported them. But maybe I never taught them to value me. Maybe I was too good, too available. Maybe I taught them that my love was guaranteed, so they never needed to take care of it. And now, at 55, alone in a market in Cedar Rapids, I realized it wasn't about them changing. It was about me stopping sacrificing myself for those who never valued the sacrifice. March, my birthday, the 12th. I wasn't expecting anything. I worked, I came home, I made dinner. And around 8 p.m. Sarah called. Wait. Dad. Her voice was different. Less demanding, more broken. Oi, Sarah. Happy birthday. Thanks. Silence. Dad, I'm so sorry. I didn't say it's okay, because it wasn't. Sarah continued. I know I was a terrible daughter. I know I promised things and didn't keep them. I know I only showed up when I needed someone, and I have no excuse. I listened. I didn't say anything. I let her continue. Jake left home, and I was left alone with Ethan. And you know what I realized? That loneliness hurts. That waiting for someone who doesn't come hurts. And then I thought of you, waiting for us for years. And Dad, I feel awful. I took a deep breath. Sarah, I accept your apology, but it doesn't change anything. What do you mean? I want to say that I understand you're sorry. But regret doesn't erase years of abandonment. It doesn't erase the pain I felt. It doesn't bring back the time I lost waiting. So, you don't forgive me? I forgive you. But forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. And it doesn't mean going back to being who I was. I'm not going to wait for you anymore. I'm not going to accept empty promises anymore. I'm not going to be unconditionally available anymore. If you want to be in my life, you're going to have to be there, truly, with presence, with consistency. Not just when it's convenient, she cried. I understand. And Sarah, I'm not going to send any more money, not because I don't have any, but because you need to learn that relationships aren't about transactions. I'm not asking for money, Dad. I know, but I needed to make that clear. Silence. Then she said, "Do you still love me?" I will always love, but love is not enough. It never has been. She hung up. She cried before, but she hung up. Michael called 2 days later, shorter call. Dad, I messed up, I know, and I want to fix it. Me. How? Him. I don't know yet, but I want to try. Me. Okay. When you know how, call me. He didn't call again. Daniel. Daniel sent an email, 3 pages, explaining that he had intimacy issues, that he never knew how to be close, that he knew he had failed, that he wanted to change, that he was going to start therapy. I read it, and I replied, I'm rooting for you, Daniel. I truly am. But your journey is yours, not mine. He didn't answer, and that's when I understood. I had spent my life trying to mend the distance between me and my children. But the distance was never mine to mend. It was theirs. And if they didn't want to cross paths, I wasn't going to build any more bridges. April, May, June. Life went on. I continued working. I continued living. But now, without weight, without expectation, without the false hope that consumed me. Did you have moments of sadness? Yes. Were there nights when I looked at old photos and missed what could have been? Yes. But it wasn't that sharp pain anymore. It was a gentle melancholy, like longing for a version of myself that no longer exists. Steve invited me to a barbecue. His family, friends. I went. And for the first time in years, I felt like I belonged. Not because someone promised me something, but because I was there, present, and the people around me were there too. In the middle of the barbecue, Steve's daughter, who was about 40 years old, asked me, "Do you have children?" I thought about the answer, and I said, "Yes, I do, but we don't talk much." She nodded. She didn't judge. She didn't try to fix things. She just said, "I understand," and continued the conversation. That was liberating. No need to explain, no need to justify, just be. July. Sarah sent a picture of Ethan, with the caption, "He asked about you today." I looked at it. I replied, "That's great." She, "Do you want to talk to him?" I, "If he wants to, yes." She didn't reply anymore. August. Michael posted a photo of himself with Jess's family on Instagram. Caption, "Family is everything." I saw it. I didn't comment. I didn't like it. I just moved on. Daniel remained silent. And me? I started building a life that didn't depend on them. I started taking woodworking classes. I met people. I made friends. I started leaving the house not because I had to do something, but because I wanted to. One Saturday, I was in the woodworking shop, sanding a table I had made myself, and I thought, when was the last time I did something just for myself? I couldn't remember, because my whole life had been about others, about being useful, about being available. But now, at 56, I finally understood. I wasn't less of a father for having limits. I was less of a prisoner. September, another birthday. None of them texted. And me? I went out to dinner. with Steve and other friends. We laughed, we drank, and when I got home, alone, I didn't feel empty, because loneliness only hurts when you're expecting company. When you accept it, it turns into peace. Today is January 2024. I am 57 years old. I live alone in Cedar Rapids. I work at the same company, but I am no longer the same man. My children exist, somewhere, living their lives, and I exist here, living mine. There is no anger, there is no resentment, but there is also no illusion. One day last December, Sarah called, after months. "Dad, I wanted to invite you for Christmas." Me. "Sarah, thank you for the invitation. But I'll just be coming here." Her. "But, will you be alone?" Me. "Yes, and that's okay." Her. "Are you sure?" Me. "Yes." She seemed confused, as if she didn't understand, and perhaps she really didn't understand, because to her I had always been available. I'd always said yes. I'd always waited. But I am no longer that man. That man died. Not violently, but necessarily, because he was slowly killing himself, waiting for love that would never come in the way he needed. I learned something. You can love someone and still walk away. You can forgive someone and still not give them another chance. You can be a parent and still have boundaries. Today, when I look back, I don't see wasted time. I see learning. Painful, yes, but necessary. Because chronic expectation is a silent prison, and I spent years chained to promises that would never be fulfilled, chained to a version of my children that only existed in my head, chained to a role I thought I needed to fulfill, the father who never gives up. But giving up being used isn't giving up being a father. It's giving up being an idiot. Today, if my children call, I answer. If they text, I reply. But I don't chase after them. I don't beg. I don't wait. Because my peace is worth more than their validation. And you know what's funny? Ever since I stopped chasing them, they've almost completely disappeared. It's like they only look for me when they know I'm going to run after them. But it's okay, because I finally understood. The best thing you can do for someone who doesn't value you is to stop being available, not out of revenge, but out of self-love. I am 57 years old. I live alone. I work every day. I do carpentry on weekends. I have friends. I have a routine. And for the first time in decades, I have peace. If you've made it this far, thank you, truly. Because this story isn't easy to hear. And I know that maybe you've seen yourself in it. Maybe you also have someone in your life who promises but never delivers. Someone you love, but who doesn't love you the way you need. And if that's the case, I want to tell you something. You're not selfish for wanting reciprocity. You're not cruel for having boundaries. You're not less lovable for stopping waiting. If this story touched you in any way, leave a like. Not because I need numbers, but because I want to know I'm not alone in this. That there are other people understanding what I went through, and subscribe to the channel, because I'm going to keep telling stories like this. Real stories, stories that hurt, but that also heal. And now, click on the video that's appearing on your screen. Because if this story impacted you, the next one will impact you even more. Don't put it off. Watch it now. Because you deserve to understand that you're not wrong for wanting to be seen.